London Games, and the prize again is you get to go to Wembley to watch Tennessee Titans against LA Chargers. It's on October 21st, and we'll sort you out at €500 as well to cover travel and accommodation. If you want to win, the question was, tell us which team has won the most Super Bowls. Text your name and answer 53106 for 30 cents. We'll announce winner later on in the show. And again, all with thanks to Subway, lead sponsor of the NFL London Games. You can check out subway.ie for more details.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app, with hundreds of pre-live and in-play football markets. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
So 67 minutes on the clock, and it's turned into a very, very positive evening for Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane, and boy are they glad it's happening. It's been a weird week, but they're 1-0 up courtesy of a fine goal in the end. Aidan O'Brien on his debut, Millwall player, really good header after brilliant work from Callum O'Dowda, brilliant first touch from O'Dowda on the right hand side with his right foot, and then swung in a great cross with his left, and it was well finished by O'Brien. And actually O'Dowda's having a really good second half as it goes on. He's getting on the ball, he's just been hacked down as he tried to dribble through the midfield there. Poland's still probably dominating possession, or certainly edging possession, but no fantastic chances created. This has been a pretty good Irish performance, you would have to say, not least under the circumstances. So we'll talk to Kenny Cunningham at full time, get his thoughts on the game. Graham Burke, by the way, has just come on. Callum Robinson's gone off, and Matt Doherty is also on. A few people wondering, would he start given his early season form with Wolves? But it was Cyrus Christie who started, but Doherty's on for the last 35 minutes, and David Myler, who was at that slightly odd press conference yesterday with Martin O'Neill, has come on for Jeff Hendricks. So 68 minutes on the clock, it's Poland 0, Ireland 1. Now, before we get to Kenny and full time, Peter Crouch was on the show last week. You might have seen he's a new book out full of anecdotes. It's kind of a sideways look at the world of football as opposed to a straightforward autobiography. And if you've ever suspected that Peter Crouch is probably a gent, then he definitely is, because we were speaking to him last week, and as I'm sure you've seen, we're far more than just a radio show these days, so we wanted to get him on Skype where we could see him, and he was in Broadcasting House, I think, in the UK, doing lots of interviews, and he had to try and find a room where he could sort out the Skype, and frankly it just would not happen. We kept having all sorts of issues, even just finding a bloody table to put the thing on or to get it straight. So in the end we didn't actually get as much time with him as we'd hoped, because he had to go and do another interview, but we got a bit of a chat anyway. So Peter Crouch was a gent in the end and went to all sorts of bother to try and get himself on camera for us. So here he was speaking to us last week. Okay, I'm delighted to welcome our next guest. Peter Crouch has a new book out, How to Be a Footballer, and he joins us on the line. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I should give the listeners an insight here. We've spent what feels like about 4 hours just trying to get a picture of you.
We're not very technical here.
Oh, listen.
I'm certainly not very technical, but I'm in shot, I think, just about.
No, you're beautifully in shot, but you are, especially as a pampered Premier League footballer, you're entitled to have stormed off, I would say, about 25 minutes ago. So you've done very well here.
I should have gone.
Yeah, I know. A good tantrum would have been just in order. So listen, I read the book. It wasn't. I hadn't realised what type of book it was going to be before I read it. I just opened it. I got a PDF sent by email, and this is not the old "I'm Peter Crouch, I was born on the 20th of January 1977" type deal. This is kind of more of a kind of fun, sideways look at the world of a Premier League footballer.
Exactly right. Listen, I'm a fan of autobiographies. I do read them myself, but I don't know, I just wanted to do something slightly different. I didn't want to say, like you say, I was born here, was raised here, this is how I did this, and, then finish it with the big, I played football. I wanted to do it differently, and I think if you see the chapters are all very different. It's one of those where you could probably pick it up and read chapter 8 if you want. It'd be the same as reading it back to front. I'm very proud of it. I'm pleased with it. I think it's full of a little bit of insight. I think people see maybe us on a Saturday playing the games and don't know what goes on in the dressing rooms, on the team buses, at the training grounds. So I've tried to be a little bit insightful, but I've tried to do it in a way where it's entertaining.
You mentioned dressing rooms there and what goes on. We suspect a lot of what goes on, and childishness is generally near to top of the list. And I must say the dressing room antics of Stoke 2013 were especially grim, if you want to explain to people just how grim they got.
Yeah, well, it started with any other bit of light-hearted banter, really. Flour on the car, a few bit of deep heat in the pants, little things like that. It was all light-hearted, and then it escalated a little bit. I think it was John Waters, put Matthew Everettson's jacket down the toilet, and he spent a few quid on that, and then he retaliated by putting kippers in his shoes and hid them. So they were there for a few hours and stank. And it culminated in basically John Waters going to the butcher's, and he ordered a pig's head and got it sent to the training ground and put it in Glenn Whelan's locker. But Glenn Whelan then retaliated and then put it in what he thought was with Matthew Everettson's locker. It was actually Kenwyn Jones's locker. Kenwyn, as you know, I'm sure, is not a man to be messed with.
No.
So he took it badly and proceeded to throw a brick through Matthew's car. So it all kicked off, and what started with a bit of fun turned into anarchy. Really, it was absolute carnage, and ended up with a couple of 2-week fines and a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, no doubt. I guess part of the book almost centres around the fact that you're all from pretty normal backgrounds, and you're thrust into this just ridiculous world of money and fame and celebrity and everything else, and so much of it is about trying to find your way. It was really interesting when you treat yourself to an Aston Martin, even though something in your head's telling you, I don't know if this might be a bit much for me, but you went ahead with it anyway, but it didn't last long.
No, this is one of my favourite stories in the book, really. It's one of those where I tried my best to keep my feet on the ground, even when I was a kid. I was coming through, and I think when I first made it, I tried to keep it low key. I bought myself a nice Renault Megane. I was going to go for the convertible, but I decided against it because I thought it'd be a little bit too flash. But when I got to Liverpool, I thought, right, I'm doing okay now. I was playing for England at the time. I was playing for Liverpool in the Champions League and stuff. And I bought myself a nice Aston Martin. It was never me. I should never have bought it. For starters, getting in it was difficult. Once I did get in it, I just didn't feel like it was me ever. People were looking, and I didn't want to be that person. I pulled up. I lived in Cheshire at the time. I pulled up at the lights alongside Roy Keane, of all people, and I had the shades on. I think I was listening to some Speed Garage. My arm was out the window. I was having myself, and then Roy gave me that look that he's given many of people in his time, and I felt about that big, and I literally, as he sped off into the distance, I think he had Discovery at the time. I was sitting in this car, I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, I need to get rid of this. And I literally got rid of the car that week and took a big hit on it, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Literally the last person in the world you want to pull up in your Aston Martin beside in Manchester, I think. Right
Spot
up there.
on, but he helped me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a funny, this is such a weird thing. But even before I read the book, I was going to ask you about being so tall. And it's not like it's that interesting a thing. You're just a bit taller than other people. And yet, being famous, you get non-stop people coming up to you. Like the card that you carried around in nightclubs in particular, when you can kind of see people with a bit of, they get a few pints in and they want to come up and talk to you. The card that you had was a touch of genius. They would come up to you and you would just hand them the card before they say anything, which would say, yes, I'm tall. Yes, I'm 6'7". No, the weather isn't different up here. No, I don't play basketball. I'm glad we had this conversation. Which kind of covers it.
It really does. It's mad to think, but even now, people do come up to me and ask me, how's the weather up there? How tall are you? Oh my God, you're tall. They are the same questions that I get, and I get them on a daily basis. And it got to the stage where I actually saw these cards online. Someone else tall had them printed.
Okay.
And I actually tweeted, oh, that's genius. And they actually sent me a load of these cards. I kept them in my pocket for a while, and I never used them. I wasn't brave enough. And then I'd had a few pints, and I thought, well, I've got to use the cards tonight. I said, tonight I'm using them. And a couple of people came over, but I just know when it's going to happen. It usually starts with the old creak of the neck like that, like, looking up at you, like, oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
And then it's the same. It's one of those questions, 100%. So I gave the card, and it's a beautiful way to stop that conversation.
No, it's very good. I had a chuckle at that, and I vividly remember the first time I saw you play, and I'm ashamed to say I uttered the cliche of all cliches. I said, "Geez, he's got a good touch for a big man." You weren't very good in the air growing up, which is kind of interesting. You would think, you would be, but you had centre halves, you say in the book, up to your nipples who were beating you for headers.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, I had to adapt my game. I think no one grows up wanting to head the ball and score goals. I don't know. I think when you grow up, you want to be a Lionel Messi. You want to be Paul Gascoigne in my day.
Well, it's sore as well. Let's be honest. As a kid, it's bloody sore. It always gets you in the top of the head, and it's like, I'm not doing that again.
Get it wrong, and I think it got to a stage where I was 6'7", like you say, and I'm losing headers against people that were smaller than me, and my dad was like, this is embarrassing, what are you doing? So I had to work on my head, and it was something that I had to work on, and thankfully now, being 6'7", I need to be able to head the ball. If you don't, there's no point playing. But what I wanted to do was score volleys. I wanted to dribble, I wanted to score goals, and I wanted to do other things. So I had to work on that, really, and incorporate that into my game. And thankfully I did, because I've scored a fair few headers in my time.
Yeah, you've kind of grown to love it. Like, you give a whole chapter to just the joy of scoring headers and the different types of headers. Like, it's now something that you kind of love.
Yeah, well, it was one of those things where, like I say, because I had to work on it, I now, having broke the headed goals record in the Premier League, it was nice to obviously get that. I wanted to sort of give a little bit of insight in the fact that it wasn't natural to me at all. Heading, although I'm tall, obviously I've got an advantage. I certainly had to work on that, and I did it, and thankfully I did.
One of the great things about the book is just like throwaway one-liners on different players, because we're all obsessed and we get such little access. So I don't know why, but I liked knowing that Sandro had a soundproof house so he could have big parties. That was just nice to know. And then I had often wondered about Benoit Asso-Okato, because we had heard, he doesn't really like football, often wouldn't recognise the other players. You talk a little bit about him. That is all true, and there's a whole other level.
Yeah, incredible, honestly. I genuinely, on a Friday, we just chat to him. He's a nice fella.
Yeah.
He just didn't like football. He just happened to be good at it. And I think, that's what happens to some people. They're good at football, but they have absolutely no interest in it. And he had no interest. Sometimes you wouldn't know on a Friday who would be playing on a Saturday. He'd generally just turn up for work like he was doing any other job.
Yeah.
Didn't do much research, just went out and played, and he was very good. He had a good attitude when he was on the pitch, and he was a good trainer.
Yeah.
But he turned up with his bag from Tesco's on a Saturday. He'd have a hot chocolate, a croissant, and a packet of crisps, and a can of full fat Coke. We'd be there with our pasta and the beans and not much sauce, chicken, basic stuff to fuel ourselves for the game. And he'd be just sitting there dipping his croissant into his hot chocolate.
I especially like that he didn't like ice baths or refused them on the basis that they were too cold, which is a fair complaint, I think. Insightful. I don't know if you lads noticed, but these are cold, said Benoit to the room. England's very interesting as well. So, look, you've over 40 England caps. 42, I'm going off Wikipedia here, so it may not be quite right, but 42 England caps and 22 goals, which is a record you must be rightly proud of. That's a serious strike rate, if you do say so yourself.
No, I was I'm very proud of everything I've done for England. I loved it. I just felt like I was going into games and I was full of confidence. I was playing with top players. I played, Rooney, Gerrard, Lampard, Beckham was swinging them in from the right, Gary Neville down the right. I had a lot of supply, but I genuinely felt I'd go into games and I always felt I was going to score. I felt that with the Champions League as well. I felt like the higher sort of I went, the easier I found it. I think it's tougher maybe in the Championship or, sometimes in the Premier League. I play against tough defenders. I found that harder. I think when the higher I went, certainly in Europe, teams didn't know how to cope with me really. And I went into games just full of confidence, knowing I was going to score. And I loved every minute playing for England. It was a great experience playing in those World Cups. I think 2006 Germany World Cup will live with me forever.
Yeah.
I think that was our team. Now I go through that team now, and it was top notch. My mum could name the entire 22. I think It was amazing, the players we had.
Yeah.
And I think that was our year, really. It was a real shame that it didn't turn out the way we'd hoped.
And you talked about that in the book as well. And we're talking with Peter Crouch here, as I'm sure you can see and hear. And he has a new book out called How to Be a Footballer, which is full of little insights. And Baden-Baden was really interesting. You know, so there's the circus with the wags. I'm sure they don't love that term, but there's the circus with them. And, you know, like Colleen Rooney's out for dinner and someone deliberately knocks her over and then snap, pictures happen and it's like Colleen's drunk as she's off balance. This kind of stuff was going on, which is kind of extraordinary. On the England, failure's too strong a word, but maybe, you know, that team was so good. Where did it fall short for you? Because, I mean, all these players won big things at club level. The thrown out line from the outside is often that there was maybe a lack of balance in midfield, often outnumbered in midfield. The Gerrard Lampard thing, as exceptional as they both were, wasn't a perfect match. When you look back on that team now, is that the issue for you? Because it probably should have done more, that team.
Yeah, it's such a difficult one. I mean, there's so many factors. People say there was distraction of the families and things like that. I don't think that was ever a distraction. You know, if that's a distraction, it's a distraction at home as well. You know, we're still with our wives and girlfriends and kids at home. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't ideal, the amount of press and photography, but that wasn't a huge issue. Like you say, the midfield things just didn't click, and we could sit here and say that there was this factor and that factor about how we played, but things just didn't gel, and for whatever reason. And I thought we were a bit unlucky. We got to a quarter final. You know, could we have done better? Yes. We went out on penalties. We had a man sent off, and I think when Rooney got sent off, I think that was a knife in the back for us. I mean, it was difficult. Did he deserve to go? I'm not sure. But then it's a lottery with penalties. You lose on pens. If we get through that, we would have been in a semi-final and one step closer. So at that time, there was some top teams. So it was difficult, but it's hard to pinpoint one particular reason why it went wrong. Yeah.
Who was your favourite manager in all your time? Like you give insights into loads of them. They're all very different. Who did you love playing under?
Well, internationally, I thought Sven was great.
Right.
I know he got a bit of stick in certainly in this country, but for me, he always did a good job. He qualified with flying colours every year. He got to a quarter final and a semi final. You know, were we the best team in the world at that time? I'm not sure. We finished in the semis and the quarters each time. I just loved the way he was so relaxed. Me personally, gave him my England debut, and for that I'll be forever thankful.
Yeah, that always counts. You say he was very relaxed about I was going to say speculation, but it was more than that. Just like the obsession with his private life. Like he seemed to find the whole thing hilarious, which is kind of mad, really.
It was amazing. I couldn't believe how calm he was. You know, he was on the front page of the papers, and for all sorts of antics.
Yeah.
We'd come in on a Monday and we think, God, he's going to come in and resign or something. He'd come in and just, you're crazy in this country, and then laugh it off and then move on to the next thing. That was it, done. And I loved him for that. I just thought he was just literally just take things in his stride. And for me personally, he relaxed me. When I went onto a football pitch, I felt relaxed because he was so calm. It was like all these fireworks and explosions were happening around us, and he would just stroll through them like they weren't happening. And I sort of tried to take that into my life a bit as well.
Before clock is going to come against us here, but you get to move to Liverpool. This is a fantastic achievement. You've come through lower level and you come in at Liverpool. Everyone knows about your drought initially is kind of like this famous thing. I had forgotten, you say 13, 14 games in, I was almost having a few drinks after matches just to get off to sleep. And I'd forgotten that 16 games and no goals in, whoever was presenting the World Player of the Year awards that year, you were kind of the butt of one of his jokes in his opening monologue. Like, is Peter Crouch not here? He asks the room, and ha ha ha, they all chuckle. Your memory of that drought? I mean, you're joining Liverpool, you want to make a good impression. It's Gerrard, it's Carragher, you talk about trying to impress them, and then somehow you're 16 games plus without scoring.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the darkest time in my career, really. I mean, yeah, I can laugh about it now, but at the time it wasn't funny. You know, people were making jokes about me. I was, you know, national. It was ridiculous, you know, and it was. I felt like I was playing like a different role. Rafa tried to make me drop deep and do a bit, and he was really happy with what I was doing, but I wasn't scoring, and I became, you know, a national joke, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, my dad was very good in that time. Like you say, we used to just go out. I was like, Dad, look, I just want to hide away. He's like, come on. He should drag me out to the pub, and used to realise that actually people had their own lives. You know, no one was actually really that bothered about me. Yeah, they'd have a laugh and a joke, but that was it. So yeah, it sort of got me over it, really. And yeah, although I became quite a heavy drinker in those days, I got through it and I came out the other side. And you know, once one goal did go in, they flew in, and I carried on scoring for Liverpool. You know, there was times where I was like, I just want to go back to Southampton.
Right.
I'm at one of the biggest clubs in the world, and I was literally thinking, I just want to go back and play at Southampton in the Championship.
Yeah.
But thank God I stuck it out, because those years at Liverpool were probably the best in my career.
Yeah.
I was playing for England, I was playing for Liverpool, and you know, what a time to be playing for them. We had so many good players.
And your Champions League record in one particular year was absolutely sensational. It was a really brilliant insight as well, I thought, the way you talked about arriving at Liverpool, and I suppose Gerrard in particular, followed closely by Carragher. Like it was almost them. It was almost their test you had to pass above Rafa's or above anyone else. Like early doors in training, even just warm up passing, Gerrard is kind of wrapping them at you, and you better trap it, and you better show them that you've got what it takes. 'Cause they were quick enough with new arrivals to say, you know, donkey, waste of money, you know, bang. They'd make up their minds early, and it was they kind of set the standards there. It was very interesting.
Oh, it was amazing, honestly, genuinely. I've seen them write off multi-million-pound signings in one training session, and it's ruthless. And I think that's why you know, they are where they are. You know, they were ruthless. They were certainly ruthless with me, like you say. I think Steven Gerrard used to wrap balls into me and expect me to deal with them. And I remember not dealing with them in the first training session, maybe dealing with one. And he gave me a look of utter disgust, similar to the way Roy Keane looked at me when I was driving that of mine. And I remember thinking to myself, right, I need to be on my toes every single training session, and sorting myself out and making sure that I kept hold of the ball and kept it moving and did what he wanted from me. And I felt like I was trying to impress Steven Gerrard more than I was trying to impress Rafa at times. And I think that is when, you know, managing a football club becomes easy, when you have a captain that expects those kinds of standards. Yeah, no, it was very interesting. I guess part of moving to new clubs as well is having to live in hotels, and you describe yourself as the Alan Partridge of the football world at one point. And with Liverpool, you were at the Hope Street Hotel, and I mean, Jamie Carragher basically tried to destroy you early on here. There was what you say is an absolutely stunningly good-looking receptionist that was incredibly friendly to you, and I mean, you were thrilled to tell your new dressing room about the situation. Well, obviously, like any man would, there was a lovely receptionist. I was obviously describing her to the rest of the lads. I said, yeah, I've arrived at the hotel, and this girl in reception's taking a shine to me. She's smiling at me all the time, and, you know, this and that. And I was explaining what was going on in slightly less polite terms, maybe. And I remember Cara saying, tell Shabby. And so I was like, yeah, like Shabby, what's going on? And it was only halfway through when Shabby stopped me and told me it was his missus. And she was working at the hotel just to learn English, and the reason she was smiling at me is because I was one of her husband's teammates.
Oh dear, I can only imagine Carragher at that exact moment, and the sheer happiness.
He was so happy. He was so happy that he'd managed to stitch me. And the way he made me tell the story to Xabi Alonso was, I'll always remember the moment, and possibly one of the most embarrassing moments of my entire life. Yeah,
don't hold it against me, Xabi. I'm so sorry. I guess to sum up, and we'll let you go here, it comes across as a fun life. It comes across like, I mean, the childishness, you know, and the friends you make, and just like you get to play football for a living. And there are downsides too. As you come to the end of your career and look back on it all, like I get the sense that you really enjoyed it, and you managed to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that plenty of players don't, but that you kind of, I got the sense you feel incredibly lucky to have got to go on this absolutely mental journey, as opposed to, like most of us, stuck in an office, frankly, most days.
No, I've loved every single minute of it. I really have. And listen, I fell into many of the pitfalls, I'll be honest with you, and I think I do explain that in the book. The music, music, haircuts, cars, clothes, some terrible things. But I feel like I've come out the other side a little bit, hopefully. And I feel like I can laugh at the fact that I was there. I've seen some things, some incredible sights. But yeah, I've done it. I've lived the dream. I left school at 16 and played football, and I'm still doing it now. So I've never had to grow up. Everything I've done is I do with a smile on my face. Scoring a goal now is still the best thing that ever was. So yeah, long may that continue. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and the body's feeling good?
Feels okay, yeah. It's it's not the same as it was when I was 25, but I don't feel too bad. I feel like I can play for a little while yet. Yeah,
I said you were on, and I said any questions for Peter, and I would say 85% of the responses were ask him about the robot. Now I'm not sure what I meant. I'm not sure what I meant to ask you exactly, but that it's you'll never escape that either.
Never. I mean, I don't think I could score another 500 goals and play till I was 84, and I think still people would say, "What about the robot?" Yeah. Listen, I know you have to run. You're doing loads of interviews. How to Be a Footballer is the book. Thanks a million for your time. Appreciate it. I know there was lots of coming and going and moving you around earlier on, so much appreciated. Thanks so much. I hope you can see me, and
we can see you.
I wasn't in the studio. Hopefully I'll be able to go over there soon.
Okay. Thanks a million. Good luck.
Cheers. Thank you.
There you are, Peter Crouch. We were speaking to him last week. Absolute gent, and we could have easily done another 20, 30, 40 minutes with him. There were loads of little bits and pieces in the book, and yeah, it's good. I mean, I think he should actually do a proper traditional autobiography as well, because he's a very smart fella, lots of good observations in the book, and you'd be very interested in his full career story, but maybe in good time. So, the situation in Poland is that they have equalised. Ireland scored first, courtesy of Aidan O'Brien, and Poland have hit back now. We're into the 92nd minute, so it's 1-1. Daryl Horgan just on the pitch in the last 10 minutes or so, and there are 90 seconds of added time left. So 1-1 at the moment. We'll take a short break. Kenny Cunningham has watched the full game for you, and he'll give us his thoughts next.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster-than-ever Boyle Sports app, with hundreds of pre-live and in-play football markets. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, as well as all the breaking news, should homework be abolished, we find out what kids and parents really think. Your desire to please, your need to control, and your ambition, what your handwriting says about you. And I love you, but I love myself even more. What do you do when you're in a relationship with a narcissist?
The Pat Kenny Show.
With MasterCard.
Tomorrow morning at 9.
On News Talk.
If this was tennis, you'd be watching the greats go for a Grand Slam with a glass in your hand.
If this was a Grand Prix, you'd be watching amazing machines whiz by. And if this was rugby, you'd be among thousands watching the best teams on earth battle it out. Longines Irish Champions Weekend is that big. Be at one of the world's finest horse racing events on Irish soil. 15th and 16th of September, Leopardstown and the Curragh. Visit irishchampionsweekend.ie.
So, there you are, in work, online, having a sneaky look at that Samsung appliance you want. In fairness, they are gorgeous. Once you get a Samsung American fridge freezer, there's no going back. And now Samsung are offering cash back on loads of products at appliancesdelivered.ie. You can save between €40 and €340 till November 6th on fridge freezers, washing machines, dishwashers. Sketch, boss is coming. T's and C's apply. Check out the Samsung cashback offer at appliancesdelivered.ie.
Whatever your marketing roots, this autumn turn over a new leaf and get the digital skills you need to really branch out. At the Digital Marketing Institute, we work with industry leaders such as Google, IBM, Facebook and Twitter to create cutting-edge and relevant courses that will help you stand out or land that dream job. While access to our exclusive membership platform will ensure you keep on top of all the latest digital trends and developments. Advance your career today with a professional diploma in digital marketing. Visit digitalskills.ie for more.
A business needs to be creative to stay ahead of the game. And creative brains need space to think. Give them space. Think better. But let's do it with a little style. Castleknock means business. Discover more at castleknockhotel.com.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
So just gone full time in Poland and it's finished 1-1 in tonight's friendly. Elsewhere this evening, there's about 8 minutes to go between England and Switzerland, and it's England 1-0 up. Again, that's a friendly at the King Power Stadium. Marcus Rashford, again, scoring for England on 54 minutes, so 1-0 up as things stand. It's gone full time in Belfast, Northern Ireland 3, Israel 0. Stephen Davis, Stuart Dallas and Gavin White with the goals for Northern Ireland. Plenty of other friendlies on this evening. Elsewhere in the Nations League, the result of the evening by some distance is Spain 6, Croatia 0. So that was a full time. 3-0 at half time, 6-0 at full time. Spain have beaten Croatia by 6-0. I'll have to double check that Croatian team. Can't believe it's their strongest. And Belgium have beaten Iceland by 3-0 also in the Nations League this evening. Kenny Cunningham's back on the line. Kenny, you're there?
All right, Joe, yeah, all here.
So we started off with Randolph, Cyrus Christie, Richard Keogh, John Egan, Kevin Long, Enda Stevens, with Jeff Hendrick, Sean Williams, Callum O'Dowda across midfield, and Callum Robinson and Aidan O'Brien up front. How did they go?
Yeah, I was pleased, Joe, in all honesty. I was pleased. We looked solid for the majority of the game. Good team shape. Looked comfortable, out of possession. I think the Poles probably helped us a little bit lethargic in their approach. Didn't move the ball really quickly enough, but our concentration levels were good, Joe. I thought we started the game well. Kept possession of the ball reasonably well, I thought, as well, although the Poles dropped off us and really let us have it really up until we approached the half line. But we kind of, worked the ball across the pitch and at least maintained possession for periods of the game, and looked very comfortable, certainly in the first half of the game. Got ourselves a great goal, Joe. Second half, the people that have seen it's really us at our best, really. Just getting the ball into a wide area. Brilliant first touch from Callum O'Dowda, just chopping it back onto his left foot. Lovely in-swinging cross, beating the first man. And Aidan O'Brien just attacking that kind of near post area. Didn't really even have to get off the ground. Just directed it past the goalkeeper. Great header, but a brilliant move and simple move in a lot of respects, Joe. And like I said, what we're good at, just getting the ball in wide areas, not overcomplicating the game. Good quality delivery into the box, and we've got players, always have done, Joe, who attack the ball well. Aidan O'Brien on this occasion, John Walters has done it, Shane Long, those players, and players before. That's one of our strengths, I think, and it was a great goal, but the pressure came after that, particularly the last 15, 20 minutes. A lot of changes after that from both teams. They built up a head of steam, injected a bit more energy into the game, started moving the ball quicker, better combination play. And I wouldn't say the goal was coming, but we were really being stretched towards the back end of the game. And it was a brilliant goal which they got. I must say, brilliant play from Glitch. Just got through our central midfield, racing at our back three, and it was difficult after that. Played a great little 1-2 and a brilliant finish before Richard Keogh could get across on the cover. It was an excellent goal and probably about deserved over the course of the game.
So you mentioned O'Dowda and O'Brien there, their involvement in the goal, and people, when they see the O'Dowda touch, that chop back, will really kind of see the quality. And again, it's just good, simple football. Aside from those two, anyone catch your eye?
I think the back three were solid as a unit. Richard Keogh showed a lot of experience. John Egan, I thought, give him a bit of credit, showed a bit of confidence early on, wanting to get in the ball and pass the ball forward, looked very assured. Felt a little bit sorry for Kevin Long on that left-hand side, obviously more comfortable off his right-hand side, wanting to come back onto his right-hand side. Which I can understand. I play that kind of position myself, being pushed onto the left-hand side, being predominantly right foot. It's probably not as comfortable as over the other side of the pitch. But generally, I thought the back three acquit themselves well. Decent support from the wing backs. So the balance was good, I thought, early on in terms of Sean Williams just sitting there, and Jeff and Callum O'Dowda in particular trying to break forward. I mean, Callum O'Dowda, Joe, we've seen it before. He's a machine when he opens his legs in possession of the ball. One of the few players we have who can really go beyond people in and out of possession of the football, particularly in possession when he travels with the ball. He really eats the ground up, and a couple of times he broke out from central midfield. Really caught the eye. I mean, that could potentially be a position for him going forward. If Martin elects to stick with his system of that three in central midfield, he's becoming more of an obvious option for us, as opposed to a player who looks as if he's going to play predominantly as a winger, wide of a four. He looks now pretty comfortable as a number 8 now, those two number 8s in that central midfield position. So that was a good thing to come out of the evening in terms of maybe him going forward, being able to utilise his kind of athleticism and his dynamism in that central area of the pitch.
Yeah, So, I mean, when you talk about things like a good shape and a good balance, and I appreciate you're throwing in the caveat that there was a lethargy at times about the poles and at times they let us have the ball as well. But still, a good shape and a good balance and, you know, a team concentrated without the ball and with the ball. So what do we deduce from that? Is that suggest they've been done a bit more on the training ground this week, or can it just happen on a given night, especially on a friendly, or is it too hard to tell from afar?
Yeah, I think it's just speculation, really, Joe. I don't know. I don't know what type of preparation has been done. It's hard to say. The Martin's changed the way he prepares the team just for this kind of one game only. But no, you could sense that you could from the TV pictures look at them. You could see how we were playing in terms of that kind of 3-5-2 shape. We didn't get dragged around the pitch like we had done against Wales, like big gaps appeared to be between people. It did help, obviously, Poland. When you play that system, Joe, you're a little bit open down the sides of teams can get a quick switch and get their wingers and full-backs together on the opposite side of the pitch. They can double up and maybe expose you down the sides, but Poland didn't do that first half. Too slow in their approach play, so our midfield three kind of shifted across the pitch and were able to kind of double up with our wing backs. So the shape was good, and they didn't really create too many clear-cut opportunities in that first half. We didn't create too many ourselves, Joe. Let's be honest, and when they did put a bit of pressure on our back three, invariably we did go back to front a little bit, which is okay in that system because you have got two players high up the pitch who can kind of dovetail between each other. Aidan O'Brien was a really willing runner in behind. I think Callum Robinson's there as a mention, Joe. I think he's shown a couple of things over the last couple of games to suggest he's worth persevering with. Kind of very athletic, you know, moves well over the ground, good touch, kind of sees things early. You know, hadn't a huge amount of involvement over the two games, and what he had to do, I just thought he showed enough to suggest maybe he's one maybe to look at going forward.
For people just tuning in, we spoke pre-game, so if they're wondering why I'm not straight away asking for your thoughts on the Carragher situation or various bits and pieces, we've sort of teased some of that out, and I told you what Liam Brady had to say today, and I played you the Brian Kerr comments as well, and we had you certainly didn't feel what Stephen Ward was talking about was normal or is the norm. So the result tonight certainly puts a bit of coolant on the situation and calms everything down a little bit. It certainly makes Martin O'Neill's post-match press conference a bit easier, and the comments in tomorrow's paper probably won't be as kind of explosive with the questions. So what needs to happen now? I mean, okay, look, results will dictate everything, and next month is a very big month, but certainly some key things which would help. Harry Arter and Roy Keane having a conversation and that being put to bed. Hopefully Declan Rice maybe looks at the situation and says, you know what, it's okay, and I might come on board. Maybe there's nothing we can do about that. But just for the general mood, okay, tonight being a nice first step, what would you like to see happen off the pitch over the next couple of days or weeks?
That's difficult to say, really, because I like I said before we spoke to earlier on this evening, I think we're talking about fundamentals, really, rather than maybe a one-off little blow between Roy and Harry. If that's all it was very out of character of Roy to behave in that manner. When players can laugh it off, we're all human, we all explode. That's fair enough. But if there's something a little bit more fundamental at play in terms of maybe if it's happened maybe a little bit too often, if there's a little bit of distance between some of the management staff and the players, which has led to a little bit of a negative atmosphere around the place, that'd be a little bit more concerning, I suppose, and that's not going to be resolved over the space of a couple of days or a couple of weeks, or between maybe a conversation between Roy and Harry Arter. Hopefully that's not the case. If it's a one-off falling out between a player and a coach and they shake hands and they're both prepared to move on, well, that's all well and good. You mentioned the points that Brian made again. They're big talking points, like I said, and they're not going to be resolved over the space of a few weeks either. But I'm reasonably pleased in what I saw this evening. I expected to a certain extent, Joe, in terms of reaction from the players. Just as a professional, they would have been horned. They would have been almost a little bit embarrassed by the performance and the result against Wales. So I think that would have been, without even too many people shouting and screaming around the dressing room, I think that would have been that kind of a collective feeling amongst themselves. Listen, we need to put things right here a little bit. We need to put in a type of performance, even in terms of energy, intensity around the place, and just put out a message there, really, even to ourselves and our own supporters, that, hey, look, this jersey means something to us. And I think the players did that this evening, the way they approached the game and kind of at least the attitude which they showed on the pitch. Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I guess that is where we're also into speculation. You raised the point, is this
somewhat isolated incident that's happened, and unfortunately for Stephen Ward and everybody else, it leaks into the papers and becomes a big talking point? Or is it a more regular thing, and is there a distance? And again, that's where I'm probably asking you unfairly to speculate or ask for your sense of that.
Yeah, well, I can't give any huge amount of clarity on that, unfortunately, Joe. What I do know from experience as a player, I've been in the dressing room, and everybody will notice wherever level they've kind of played at, in terms of the atmosphere, the kind of dynamic, the harmony around the squad is important. Your kind of working environment, and I'm not just talking about the relationship between players here. I'm talking about fundamentally the relationship between players, the manager, the assistant coach, the kind of whole management team. I think it does matter when you create that type of environment. People are comfortable in each other's company. They can engage with each other. There's a certain level of respect there as a person and as a professional. Well, that's the kind of environment that players can kind of thrive in. They enjoy coming into that type of environment, and invariably it gets the best out of them. We see that in all manners of sport, really, John. Not just football here as well, international, at club level as well. That's what every kind of, I think, management team aspires to, create that type of environment. And I'm hoping we have that, because if we don't have it, and if it's anyway fragmented at this moment in time within the squad, then for me, I kind of fear the worst a little bit going forward, because that can't just change by flicking on the switch. And ultimately, performances will kind of reflect that in the coming months. So I suppose really we wait and see.
Yeah, that's how it certainly feels. It's a huge month next month. I think you're in studio in the meantime, so we can tease things out and get your feel for things in a bit more depth. Kenny, thanks a million. Appreciate it.
Nice one, Joe. Take care.
Kenny Cunningham there with his thoughts on pretty good performance, as Kenny was saying, and very decent result for Ireland, and certainly will put a bit of coolant on everything, and Martin O'Neill's post-match press conference won't be as tricky as yesterday's. Back in 1 sec.
Off the ball on News Talk.
So, there you are, in work, online, having a sneaky look at that Samsung appliance you want. In fairness, they are gorgeous. Once you get a Samsung American fridge freezer, there's no going back. And now Samsung are offering cash back on loads of products at appliancesdelivered.ie. You can save between €40 and €340 till November 6th on fridge freezers, washing machines, dishwashers. Sketch, boss is coming. T's and C's apply. Check out the Samsung cashback offer at appliancesdelivered.ie.
Cash in when you switch to 3SIM only today. We'll give you a free 3-money prepaid MasterCard with €20 to spend however you like. No long contracts, just all-you-can-eat data with loads of calls and texts. Cash in today at 3.ie or your local 3 store. 3. Make it count. Subject to 3-money registration, 30-day minimum term, all-you-can-eat data, ROI only. The 3-money prepaid MasterCard is issued by Prepaid